May it please the court, Mr. Striggins, Ms. O'Laughlin, Mr. Bertmeister, members of the jury. Now is the time that we get to talk to you about closing arguments. It's been a while since I've had a chance to talk to you. Seems like, in some respects, it seems just like yesterday, but in some respects, it seems like a couple weeks ago. I often get asked, as a prosecutor, what is my job? I tell people I'm a prosecutor, and they say, well, what does that mean? Do you represent the state? Do you represent defendants? And people naturally get confused. And so I've come to tell people that my job, in a nutshell, is I'm just a storyteller. I'm a glorified storyteller. I get to help people tell their stories. People who can't tell their stories aren't the most fun stories, often. And I have to help them tell their stories in a court with certain rules, and I have to use certain words. But at the end of the day, I'm just a storyteller. And I thought about this closing argument, and I thought, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this one? As Mr. Striggins said, trials are a living and breathing thing. You never know how they're going to go. There's going to be interruptions. There's going to be things that we don't plan for. Sometimes we have to adjust witnesses. Sometimes we have to adjust what we're doing in timing. But at the end of the day, I thought the only way I can do this is to just tell you a story. A story of what the evidence has shown. Once upon a time, at 2716 Alberta Avenue. That's where this story begins, and that's where the story ends. 2716 Alberta Avenue. That's where it all happened. We know it's in Sarpy County, Nebraska. Everybody testified to that. That's one of the elements we'll have to show. But what happened there? Chapter 1. Adam, Mary, and the kids. Adam and Mary meet in 2013. They get married in 2016. Emmy Price is born on January 21st, 2016. Adam, Emmy, and Mary move into 2716 Alberta in March of 2017. Then Theodore Teddy Price was born on March 2nd, 2018. Chapter 2. Adam and Mary separate. Mary moved out of the house, you heard her, she moved out of the house in 2019. And they shared custody of the kids. She lived in an apartment in Papillion, he still lived in the house. She had him 5 days, he had him 2 days. Things were working out. They were sharing custody. But in November of 2020, Mary decides she's going to move to Illinois with the kids. Adam visits the kids in Illinois, and he gets them on school vacations and weekends in Illinois with his family. Chapter 3. Christmas 2020. This is kind of when it begins. You heard about Christmas 2020. Adam took the kids for a week, starting that day. And then on December 28, 2020, Adam files for divorce. And he wanted primary physical custody. Fast forward a couple months, February, and there's a temporary order. That temporary order allowed them to have shared custody. They alternated weeks with daily FaceTime calls with the kids. Those FaceTime calls were initiated by the parent that had custody of the children. You heard Mary talk about it. Those things worked. Things were going fine. Occasionally they'd miss a call, but there were no issues. Chapter 4. Mary wants the kids back. February 2021 through April 2021, they exchanged the kids. They met halfway. Daily FaceTime, no issues. But then, in April 2021, Mary asks Adam to go back to the custody schedule before the divorce, where they lived with her and he could come up and see him on weekends with his family or school vacations. She mentioned that to Adam during an exchange. And you heard her. She said that Adam responded he'd think about it. And boy, did he think about it. That takes us to May, a few weeks later, May 10th, 2021. The final exchange. Mary drops the kids off with Adam. She testified on those days they didn't do the FaceTime call. May 11th, 2021, Mary FaceTimes the kids that night. May 12th, 2021, Mary FaceTimes the kids that night. Then comes May 13th, 2021. Adam has a plan. Adam has thought about what Mary said and how she wants the kids. And now we get Adam's response. May 13th, 2021. This is the long weekend begins. And you'll recall that phrase, the long weekend. Adam took off work that day. You heard Detective Holm get up here and testify. He obtained Adam's employment records. And on that day, Adam called in. Unplanned well-being time. He took off. But we know Adam didn't need any well-being time. He wasn't sick. You heard Ed Johnson get up here. He talked about that day. What did Ed Johnson say? He saw Adam taking the trash cans out that day. That's a Thursday. The trash pickup is Monday. And Ed Johnson says to Adam, going away for a long weekend? And Adam responds something to the effect of, uh-huh. Then what does Adam do? He takes Emmy and Teddy to the neighborhood park that afternoon. That's Exhibit 43, the walk to the park. May 13th, 2021 at 4:10 p.m. I'm going to show you that video. And you're going to see, you saw Mary, I brought that flash drive up, and Mary identified the people on that video. She said there were 4 people, and she knew the 3 of them. Adam, Emmy, and Teddy. And then there's an unassuming man mowing the lawn across the street who has no idea what's about to happen with these 3 individuals walking in the park. See, Adam had a plan. He wanted to make that day fun. He took them to the park. And listen in the video. You can hear Emmy excited. She says, "Daddy, I can see the park." Adam had a plan. Adam wanted to make that day special. Because Adam knew what was coming next. See the kids again, or do we? The long weekend continues. At that park, and you heard Megan Beckman, who lived in the neighborhood. She got up and she told you that she was at that park. She saw Adam, and you'll recall with Exhibit 56, that this is 2716 Alberta, and here's the park. And Megan Beckman indicated that she lived right over here. In Chilton, in this 9404 South 27th Avenue, that's where that video was. But Megan Beckman told you that she was at the park. She saw Adam, she saw Emmy, she saw Teddy. They didn't have any toys, so she offered to go back home. She got some sand toys so the kids could play with the sand toys. But she also told you what she observed with Adam. He was walking around wasn't interacting. Like I said, she gets the toys for Amy and Teddy to play with. And they're there for about an hour, and then they leave. She watches them walk away. That's 5 p.m. You heard Mary. The next thing we know is at about 6:20 p.m., Mary FaceTimes the kids for about 15 to 20 minutes. She described Adam's demeanor. What was it? Flat, emotionless. But you also heard Mary talk about all the other FaceTime calls, where he might have been frustrated or snippy, but she never described him as flat and emotionless on the FaceTime calls until this day at 6:20 p.m. After he took the kids to the park, after he told Ed Johnson, I'm going away for a long weekend. What does Adam do after this phone call? Adam needs gas for the long weekend. He goes to the Casey's store. We see him. Walks in, gets 20 bucks worth of gas. He walks out. What does Adam need next for the long weekend? Money. Exhibit 52. You saw Detective Holmes gathered all of this information. First National Bank. Goes to the ATM. What does he do? Looks into the ATM. He's got to make a transaction. Adam's got a plan. He makes one withdrawal right there, about 7:06 p.m. $500. Adam needs more money. He makes another withdrawal, same ATM, 7:07, $500. But Adam needed more money for the long weekend. So what does he do? He goes to the other bank, Westgate Bank. You saw on the map the proximity of these locations. They're right around the corner. Here's the Casey's. Here's the First National Bank. Here's the Westgate. Adam's got a plan. Now, I want to point out something here that nobody talked about, but you can see it. You'll recall later when Adam talks to the police, he tells the police that the children are in the car. You can see him in the car. Sure, he stopped short of the ATM. And why? Why would anybody stop short of the ATM? He did it at both locations, First National Bank and this one. Why does he not pull up to the ATM and get out himself? Instead, gets out himself and walks in. Is it because he didn't want the cameras to pick up the kids in the car? Is it because he didn't want anybody to see that the kids were in the car? But they're there. And I want you to pay attention. When the car pulls up, you'll see it. When the car first pulls up, pay attention to Adam's arms. They'll be about right here. And pay attention just to the right of Adam. You'll see something white in the back seat, moving around periodically. Looks like a foot, maybe an arm. Remember, the kids are young, 5 and 3. They're in car seats, but it's there. You don't have to take Adam's word for it. The kids are in the car with Adam when Adam's getting the money that he needs for the long weekend. Watch. There's his arm, and watch to the right of it. There it is. You see the movement. You see the back seat. You see the kids are there. And that's important because the kids were still alive while Adam was executing his plan. He takes $500 out of here, and then he tries to take another $500 out, and he's unable to. So we know Adam's got $1,500 for his plan. We also know that we're moving on to May 14th, 2021. And that's the last time anybody ever sees anything having to do with Emily or Teddy. May 14th, trash day is Monday, but Adam takes the trash out and leaves the house at 11:11 a.m. We know that. Detective Holm got that video footage from the neighbor. That's the neighbor in the Georgia address. And you can see Adam taking the trash out, and then right after he takes the trash out, his car leaves. Here's the footage, 2713 Georgia. That's where that video's from. What else do we know from the video? It's raining. That's important. There's Adam wheeling the first trash can to the curb. And he's going back to get the second one. Just put the second one by the street. Now watch this white car as it stops. Maybe a little bit of a California stop. There's a stop sign. Watch what Adam does when he drives away. Here he is, backing out. Adam doesn't even really stop. His was a full-blown California stop. And it was, literally and figuratively. Because we know soon, within a day, where's Adam going to be? In California. And where are the kids? Where's Adam going? We know, California. It's 11:11. Is he wishing it wasn't so? Is he wishing whatever happened hadn't happened? Later that day, Dwayne Swanson shows up for the roof inspection. Now, we don't know exactly when this roof inspection was placed, but we know that it was Adam's phone number that called in, that placed it. That was the contact. We know it was set for 1 and 3 p.m. Dwayne shows up, he knocks. No answer, no Adam, no Emmy, no Teddy, nobody. What does he do? He does his walk around, the door's closed, the house is buttoned up, he takes pictures. There it is, right there, the door's closed. I know there was some talk about whether this thing, held the door closed, this little pot beside it. Dwayne doesn't know, he doesn't remember if it was open or closed. He puts his flyer in. You remember that testimony about the flyer? Does he put it in the door? Does he put it in the siding? He put it in the siding. You'll hear Officer Schaefer say he put it in the siding. The long weekend continues. Mary worked that night. This is Friday. She didn't realize until late that Adam and the kids never FaceTime. She's not thinking anything of it. It's happened a few times before. She'll talk to them tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, and she doesn't talk. We know, at this point, May 15th, 2021, Adam's heading west. We know this because his car shows up. He's in Reno, Nevada. And you recall the testimony from Bellevue to Reno. It's about 22 hours, 1,400 miles. There it is, the license plate reader. That's his car, it's his license plate. Saw it in both of the ATM videos. But here it is again. You can't make this up. 11:11. What's Adam thinking? Is he wishing it wasn't so? Where's he going? We know later that day he arrived in San Francisco. Adams finds the St. James Church at 1086 Guerrero Street. That's where Father D'Aquila lives and works. Father D'Aquila talks with Adam. Now we know what Adam has been thinking. And now we know that Adam wishes it wasn't so. Adam appears quite distressed. You heard Father D'Aquila. He was quite distressed. Kept putting his head down, hands to his head. And he asks Father D'Aquila, are there any sins so grave they cannot be forgiven? What does that mean? What does common sense tell you that means? Is somebody going to say that if they accidentally hurt somebody? Is somebody going to say that if they accidentally got in a car accident? Might somebody say that if they killed somebody? Might somebody ask that question if they killed both of their children? It appears he wishes it wasn't so. Adam tells Father D'Aquila he has 2 children. And then Father D'Aquila asks, it seems as though you have harmed somebody. And what does Adam say? Nothing. But he nods his head affirmatively. You saw Father D'Aquila. He indicated it with an up and down head nod. Adam leaves. He comes back the next day for Mass. The other thing that Father D'Aquila asked him, which Adam indicated, was that he was a fugitive. He knew at that point in time he was a fugitive. That is 5 p.m. Pacific time, approximately 6 p.m. And Adam's already admitting to somebody in California that he's a fugitive. How would he know he's a fugitive? How would he know? Because he knows what he did. And he knows what he did because Adam had a plan. Chapter 9. The police arrive at 2716 Alberta. Mary's concerned. This is that Friday night. She calls for a well-being check at 9:50 p.m. And you heard that 911 call. She just is concerned. She hasn't heard from the kids or Adam. She talked about his epilepsy, and that she's concerned that maybe something happened. Officers Cass and Schaefer arrive. They notice the trash cans are out. The lights are off, except for the night light in Emmy's room. And we'll get to that in a minute. All the lights were out except the night light in Emmy's room. Schaefer knocks, no answer, no one appears home. There's no probable cause or exigent circumstances to enter the house. They can't do anything. It appears as though no one's home, they've left. May 16th, 2021, chapter 10, Emmy and Teddy are found. Mary is now very worried. It's Saturday morning. She hasn't spoken to her kids since Thursday night. She places a second call for a well-being check at about 9 a.m. Officer Schwartz responds, no one home, nothing suspicious, no reason to go in. Mary takes matters into her own hands. Morgan and Cash, her friends, that she worked with the CNA and Nebraska Medicine. Morgan reaches out to her, sees her Facebook posts. Mary asks if she can go check on the kids. Morgan and Cash drive from Blair down to Bellevue. And we find Emmy and Teddy. Both kids are dead. saw those pictures. And you're going to see them again here because they have significance. This is Emmy. Morgan told you this is Emmy, and this is her room. She's in bed. She's got the covers on. She's got her favorite stuffed animal, the giraffe. She's got a light on in the middle of the floor. Who puts a lamp in the middle of the floor? Adam did. You saw Emmy clutching that giraffe. She looks like she's sleeping. She's not. You see that there was some, it was called purge fluid that Dr. Berg noted, vomit that Morgan noted, because the dispatcher asked Morgan to try CPR. It was too late. It wasn't going to work. You heard Morgan. She said they're dead. They're dead. But because she tried the CPR, the fluid came out. The vomit came out. And they're fully clothed with their shoes on. They're not in their pajamas. They're in clothes, shoes on, tied, socks. You heard the medical examiner. And you heard the crime scene investigator when they went and collected the evidence from the autopsy. Right next door, Teddy, same thing. In his bed, covered up, tucked in with a stuffed animal, fully clothed. Why? Why? The police and EMS arrived. It smells of death. You heard Doug Vodder. Smells of death. So the investigation begins. And Adam left clues for investigators. Chapter 11. The book, the ring, the phone, the photos, and the red cards. What does it all mean? Here's the picture that officers and witnesses testified to when you first entered the house that day on the wall. Was the collage of pictures. And you'll see another close-up of it. A collage of pictures. Mary said when they lived there, they never displayed pictures like this. They always displayed them in frames. Nothing, never like this. And Adam did, and Adam did, because he wanted people to see. He wanted this to be seen. He left this for everybody to see after he left that day in his kids' room. And they're pictures. They're pictures of everybody. It's a snapshot into their life. You see pictures of the kids from all different ages. You see pictures of Adam and Mary. They're in a divorce. They're going through divorce proceedings. But this, it's their entire life. Why? Why, Adam, are you putting all this up? Is it because you didn't want the divorce? Is it because you didn't want your life to be this way? Is it because you didn't want the kids to not be able to live with both parents? Is it because you're mad at Mary? And this is your way of explaining it, along with other things? He leaves the book and the ring and the phone on the table. And that's the front door. So the first thing you see, aside from the giant collage of pictures, is the table with the book, the ring, and the phone. He wanted that to be found. He wanted people to see that. He's sending a message. We know that these items have significance. Mary testified that this book was a book that she gave Adam in their marriage before they separated when they were going through a tough time. The ring. You heard Mary talk about the ring. She wanted the ring back. She bought the ring. She wanted it back so she could sell it. She needed the money. And the phone. That's Adam's phone. The phone that he bought from Mary when she worked at the cell phone store, selling phones. The other thing about that phone that's significant is Adam factory reset that phone. Why? Probably because he didn't want people to know what was on it, what he was doing, what he was looking at. He didn't want people to see the full picture of his plan. And then there were the red cards. And the red cards didn't get published, and you're probably wondering what they are. These are the red cards that were found in the trash. There are 5 red cards, and you'll see these. And these were found in the trash. And Mary testified that this was Adam's handwriting on the cards. What do the cards say? I forgive the person for how they've hurt me and how my feelings, and whatever my feelings won't cover, the blood of Jesus surely will. Who's he forgiving? It's reasonable to infer that's about Mary. He's forgiving Mary. He's forgiving Mary for leaving. He's forgiving Mary for moving and taking kids. He's forgiving Mary for the reason that they're in a divorce. And he's forgiving Mary because he's mad at Mary because she wanted the kids back. He put those in the trash can. Chapter 12. While officers are processing the scene, Adam is in California still. He's seen Father D'Aquila. He went to Mass Sunday morning, and then he decided to take a little trip to Half Moon Bay. And after Half Moon Bay, he stops in Pacifica. He sees Father Foley. You heard Father Foley. Adam, a.k.a. Jimmy, because that's what he told him Father Foley's name was. Adam appears at the rectory door. It's after hours. Father Foley described his demeanor. He said he's distraught. Father Foley asked, "What's bothering you?" And Adam responded, "I killed my children." Adam told Father Foley, "I killed my children." What do they do? Father Foley suggests they need to call the police. Somebody has to know about this. He asks him, "Do you have a phone?" Adam says, "I don't." Father Foley says, "I'll go get mine. Do you want me to call them?" Adam says, "Yes." Father Foley gets his phone, calls the police. They waited. They waited. Adam even asked Father Foley, "Are they coming yet?" He asked Father, "Are they coming?" As if he wants the police to come. He wants this to be over. They're waiting. They walk towards the entrance. They walk back. Adam tells Father Foley that his kids' names are Emily and Teddy. And Adam asks Father Foley to pray for them. And he does. Then Officer Will Smith with the Pacifica Police Department arrives. Adam's taken into custody. Father Foley observed him shake, and he became ashen, pale, white as a ghost, as soon as the police pulled him. Why? Because he knew it was over. He knew it was up. He knew what he had done. But interestingly enough, Adam's not too concerned when talking to Officer Smith. I don't know if you caught this, but after he's handcuffed and he's being taken to the car, he says to Officer Smith, "How's your night going?"
Got it. He's detained cuz he's letting people down.
How's your night going?
It's going.
How's your night going? You killed your 2 kids? You drove to California? You just talked to a priest and you're making small talk? Adam was ready to run. You heard Detective Reiner. He got up here and he told you that he went to Pacifica, he interviewed him, he participated in the search of the car. What does he find? Adam's passport. Adam's social security card. The cash. It's about $1,300, $1,400. He spent a little bit of money to get there, but that's the cash he took out. And the savings bonds. Who carries savings bonds with them in a car? Nobody. They were in the safe, like Mary said, that where they usually kept them. And he took them because he needed it. Why do you need a passport? He's going to California. He can get to Mexico. There's an international airport in San Francisco. Detective Reiner, they find the receipts confirming the withdrawals. And they also find his medication. Remember, there was testimony that Adam had epilepsy. Well, he's going to take his medication. It's full. Because Adam was going to run, and he needs his meds, apparently. And he wanted to make sure he had his meds. Meanwhile, Emily and Teddy are dead back in Nebraska. You heard about the first interview. And I suspect Mr. Striggins is going to get up here and he's going to tell you that you can't find that the statements that Adam made to police on either occasion were voluntary or that they were freely given. You heard Investigator Walter Bourne get up here. Adam was advised of his Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. You have the right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be provided to you. And you can stop for questioning all this. Do you understand these rights that I've read them to you? Yes. What happened next? He indicated he understood. He was given food and water throughout the interview, indicated he wasn't hungry, or offered it, given water, no food, he wasn't hungry. And Adam proceeded to answer the questions. He responded to the questions. He engaged with the officers back and forth. At one point he asked them what their theory was. Who asks that? What is your theory? They told you, Investigator Walter Bourne told you, he's trying to figure out what happened. And Adam would answer the easy questions, but then when it came time to, hey, what happened to Emily and Teddy, Adam doesn't answer. Or he talks about another subject, or he deflects. He doesn't want to talk about it. But he did say this. He's not angry at the kids. There was no anger. He's shown a picture of Emily and Teddy. What did he do? Investigator Walter Bourne said he just stared at it. He doesn't ask what happened. He doesn't ask, oh my gosh, he doesn't say they're dead. I mean, he's not asking any questions. He's just staring. Wouldn't somebody who hadn't killed their kids think to ask, how did my kids die? What's going on? No reaction. And what does he say, Investigator Walter Bourne? He says he had a flat affect. The exact same thing that Mary said, that Adam had on May 13th on that last FaceTime call. He talks to Investigator Walter Bourne about their favorite stuffed animals, the giraffe and the bear. He never denies killing his kids in that interview. He never asks about his kids. He just asks, where are they? And what does he say? Hopefully they're at peace. Hopefully they're at peace? He stared at Teddy when asked who he killed first. You recall that? He asked, who'd you kill first? He doesn't say, I didn't kill either one of them. He just stares at Teddy. Sometimes you don't have to speak with your words. You can speak with your eyes, and you can speak with your actions. He was speaking with his eyes. He wouldn't respond to the questions about killing children. He asked the detectives what their theory is. Never asked how the kids died. We get to the second interview with Detective Griner. Again, Adam's statements were freely and voluntarily made here. He was advised of his Miranda rights. He indicated he understood. He started asking questions. At one point in time, he says, I want to talk to you. I want to tell you. I want to tell you what happened. I want to talk about this, but I just can't. He acknowledges he wants to talk about it. And yes, this interview was a lot longer. This was 8 hours. But he was given, I think Detective Griner said, at 5 different occasions he was offered food or water. He was allowed to go to the bathroom. Sure, for both of these interviews, was he allowed to leave? No, because he was under arrest. He wasn't allowed to just walk out of the police station because he was under arrest, because an arrest warrant had been issued for him killing his 2 kids. But he was free to move around in the room. If he wanted to go to use the restroom, he could. In fact, Detective Griner acknowledged that one time they left the room and came back, and Adam had decided to move around and get down on his hands and knees as if he was praying. He's offered food, he's offered water, he's offered the bathroom. He tells him he hasn't eaten, he's having trouble eating, he's not hungry. That doesn't mean it wasn't freely and voluntarily. Detective Griner got up here and told you that he answered the questions, except the hard ones. He never wants to answer the hard questions. Let's talk about what he told Detective Griner. He regretted what happened in Bellevue. He says he was the sole caretaker from May 10th, when Mary dropped him off, to May 14th, when he left. The kids were well behaved. They're good kids. There was no anger. He told Detective Greiner that he deserved consequences and more. He says no one else harmed his children. When asked if Mary deserved to know what happened to her kids, he responded, "She knows." And Detective Greiner says, "No, she doesn't. She doesn't know what happened to her kids. Sure, she knows they're dead at this point, but she doesn't know why or how." But Adam says she knows. And Detective Greiner said, he said that repeatedly. What does that mean? She knows. I'll tell you what the evidence shows it means. It means Adam knows that it's because of Mary. It's because of the divorce. It's because of their family is broken up. She knows that's the reason this happened. That's what Adam meant. He's asked, how did the kids get at peace in their bed? He says, I relived that moment and I'm reliving it now. I relived that moment? So you were there. So you did know what was going on. So you were present when it happened. And you're reliving it now. You can't say, I don't know what happened. You can't say, I just don't know, because you're reliving it. You can't relive something you don't know or you didn't experience. How do we resolve this, Adam? Well, I go to prison and I serve my sentence. That doesn't sound like something somebody would say if they didn't do it. He acknowledges the kids were in the car Thursday at the bank. We saw it on the video. He says, do you want Emily and Teddy to forgive you? There is no forgiveness. Consciousness of guilt. He says, I may not be much of a man, but I'm taking accountability. And then he's asked this question. Was killing the kids more about you or about the kids? And he says, I'm not sure what that was about. He doesn't say I didn't kill my kids. He just says, I'm not sure what it was about. He was sure. Remember, Mary knows. And remember, Adam has a plan. He's then followed up with this question. Was it because you didn't want the kids anymore? And he says, no. So killing the kids wasn't about the kids. If it wasn't about the kids, then who was it about? Mary. Their relationship. That's what it was about. What caused them to die? In what might be the understatement of the entire trial and evidence, what caused them to die? I failed them as a father. The evidence shows that. Did you already know how to do this? How do you know how to kill somebody? In response to this question, he doesn't say, I didn't kill anybody. He's asked, did you clean your house before or after you killed your children? After. After? So you just acknowledged, again, you killed your children. And then this one. What was going through your mind when you made the decision? That's important. What was going through your mind when you made the decision to do something to the kids? Not when you did something to the kids, but when you made the decision to do something to the kids. What was going through your mind? God help me. You see, Adam made the decision to kill the kids before he did it. It wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. It didn't just happen. Tell us how the kids died. If this was a horrible mistake, tell us. He doesn't say it was a mistake. He just says they deserved better. He told detectives he thought he was going to get caught and that he wanted to get caught. He described himself as pure evil. And when they asked him why he used that word, he said, 2 kids don't just leave this earth and they're not be evil. You're going to have an instruction, and one of the definitions is malice, without justification of cause. Sounds like evil. Detective Greiner shows him photos of Emily and Teddy at the scene, deceased, similar to what we saw there. He just stares. No questions. Doesn't ask what's going on. Doesn't seem surprised at all. Why? Because he did it. And then there's this. Did you put something over their nose and mouth or hold their face down so they would stop breathing? Recall this question? And remember, both detectives said when it came to the hard questions, he never wanted to answer them, and he might change the subject. Well, boy, did he change the subject here. His response, small acts of kindness, and it's the little things in life. What does that mean? You're just asked, basically, if you smothered your kids with your hand or a pillow, and your response is not, no, I didn't do that, I don't know how they died. Your response is small acts of kindness, and it's the little things in life. Well, he's kind of true, except for the small acts of kindness. It is the little things in life. Because Dr. Berg confirms. He confirms that the small acts of kindness, and it's the little things in life. You heard Dr. Berg, and he sat up here for a day. He sat up here for a day, and I know that some of that was pretty technical stuff. And I'm not going to show you the autopsy photos. You're going to be able to see those, and you're going to see where Dr. Berg marked his markings. And it's those markings that are important. His cause of death was asphyxia by smothering for both Emily and Teddy. And he talked about covering the nose and the mouth stops the flow of oxygen. And he talked about what can happen with that. Petechiae. Remember? It's the small things. It's the small things in Dr. Berg's autopsy that led him to that cause of death. The petechiae, the broken blood vessels in around the eyes, under Emily's eyelid. The ecchymosis. Teddy had the ecchymosis around his eyes. You'll recall that. Sort of a darkening similar to bruising. Both of them had the pulmonary edema, the congestion in the lungs, and the cerebral edema, the congestion in the brain. Dr. Berg said all of those things are consistent with asphyxia by smoke. Now, true, on cross-examination, he had to acknowledge that all of those things in and of themselves alone doesn't mean that somebody was smothered. There's many possible ways one might get petechiae. There's many possible ways one might have pulmonary edema. There's many possible ways one might have cerebral edema. There's other possible ways one might have ecchymosis. They don't, in and of themselves, mean that somebody was smothered. But when you put them all together and wrap them in a bow, knowing that two kids, both of them, were dead, in their bed, fully clothed, tucked in, with their favorite stuffed animal. And his words, two kids don't just die naturally like that. Absent any other circumstances. Absent a medical history. He told you to review their medical records. Nothing to suggest that they would just suddenly die. But both kids are dead, in their bed, tucked in, fully clothed. So, as I told you, I'm a storyteller. But you all are storytellers too. Okay? So, we get a little bit to the law and the facts in this case. And this is where you're going to read the instructions. And he's charged with first-degree murder. And as the judge indicated on the instructions, it's called a step instruction. All right? You are going to first look at first-degree murder. And you're going to go through all of those elements. Did he kill them deliberately and with premeditated malice? And if you find that this evidence has shown beyond a reasonable doubt that he has done that, you must find him guilty. But if you find that he didn't do it purposely and with premeditated malice, you're next to consider second-degree murder. Second-degree murder is if he killed them intentionally but without premeditation. And you look at that, and if you decide beyond a reasonable doubt that he did that, you find him guilty. But if you find that the state has not met its burden there, then you have to find him not guilty. And you do that for both counts, with Emily and Teddy. But the evidence, I submit to you that you heard here, shows that it was done purposely. Purposely means intentionally. Intentionally means willfully or purposely, as distinguished from accidental or involuntary. Asphyxia by smothering using a hand can take as little as 60 seconds or longer with a permeable item such as a pillowcase. Or longer with 60 seconds by hand. You heard Dr. Berg talk about that. If you put your hand over their mouth, it could take as little as 60 seconds. Depends on the individual, the size, the consciousness of it. Could be longer with a pillowcase. 60 seconds doesn't seem like long until you're in a room full of people and you're asked to watch a clock for 60 seconds. It's a long minute. Imagine that minute with your hand, or somebody's hand over your mouth or nose. And it could be longer, depending on the substance or the method used. That's it, 60 seconds. That's enough time for somebody to know that they're intentionally doing something. That's enough time for somebody to know that they're purposely doing something. You can't accidentally put your hand over somebody's nose and mouth for a minute. You have to do it with intention, and it has to be purposely. Deliberate. Defined as not suddenly or rashly doing an act after first considering the probable consequences. Well, he considered the consequences. There was nothing sudden. There was no anger. There was no provocation. And what did he say? He said, before he made the decision to do it, he said, God help me. God help me. God help me because he knew there were going to be consequences. God help me because he knew that what he was about to do was going to be so grave that could it be forgiven. That's what he asked Father Aquila. He knew of the consequences before he did it, and he still did it. Malice, we talked about this, is defined as intentionally doing a wrongful act without just cause or excuse. He referred to himself as evil. He also said that there was no anger. There was, in what he told police, he didn't tell them anything about why he might have did it or something that would have caused him to accidentally do this. He had a plan. It was part of the plan. He didn't have just cause, and he didn't have an excuse. And if he thinks the relationship breaking down and Mary wants the kids is an excuse, it's not. He said they deserve better. They were good kids. Here we get to the premeditation. It's defined as forming the intent to act before acting. The time needed for premeditation may be so short as to be instantaneous, provided that the intent to act is formed before the act and not simultaneously with the act. You know, the evidence has shown that this was premeditated. He had a plan. He called in sick. He gave the kids a fun day. He got the money. He did all of that before he killed them. He made the decision, and when he made the decision, he said, God help me. The book, the wedding ring, he put there because that tells you his motive. That's all his motive. You're not going to see the word motive in there, but motive goes towards the intent. Why do this, Adam? Because he's mad at Mary about the kids. She wanted to take the kids back. So here's the last chapter. As I said, I'm a storyteller. But you all are storytellers too. You're storytellers in this story because you get to determine what the facts are in this case and whether those facts meet the burden. This is as far as I can take it. It's your job now to get to decide the facts and whether the state met its burden. Here's Emily. That's the picture Mary indicated that she had posted. That's also the picture that the investigator walked aboard showed Adam when he first interviewed him after he was arrested. Same with Teddy. That's the picture that investigator walked aboard showed Adam too. Didn't ask any questions about it. The evidence shows, before I get there, let me back up. I know I started this story once upon a time. This is no fairy tale. And for some of the witnesses, and you get to judge the credibility, right? You get to look at their emotions, the way they testified, all this stuff. For some of the witnesses up here, you might characterize it, or they might characterize it as a nightmare, what's happening. Okay? But it's reality. That's what this is. This is reality. And the evidence shows, beyond a reasonable doubt, and you'll have that instruction, beyond a reasonable doubt. What does that mean? That you won't hesitate. In the most important transactions of life, the evidence will be so convincing you won't hesitate to act. Remember in jury selection, we talked about, what are important transactions? And I think everybody agreed. Sitting on a jury for somebody charged with murder is an important transaction in life. The evidence, and you'll recall, there was one juror when I was talking about credibility, and if she knew if her children had lied. I said, what are the giveaways? What things help you know if your children are lying? And you recall her response? She said, well, we have evidence. That's exactly what we have here. In black and white, as my PowerPoint, the evidence has shown that Adam Price is guilty of first-degree murder of Theodore Price because he acted with deliberate and malice and premeditated malice and killed his children. The evidence is shown in black and white throughout this trial that Adam Price is guilty of first-degree murder of Emily Price because he acted with deliberate purpose and premeditated malice. And because of that, I'm going to ask you to find him guilty on both counts. Thank you.